Okay, today we are going to divide fractions. And just like multiplying fractions, dividing fractions is easier when mixed numbers are converted into improper form. So we'll look out for that today. Now, when dividing fractions, there are quite a few steps, but they're all quite simple. The first step is to change any mixed number into improper form. The second step is to divide. Actually, to divide, we multiply by the reciprocal. I'll explain more later. Then number 3, we'll do any cross-canceling, because remember that saves simplifying later. Then in our fourth step, we will actually multiply. Then in number 5, we will stop and look at our solution and make sure it is simplified. If you need to pause and take notes, go ahead and do so. Then come back when you're ready for the examples. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at example number 1. In example number 1, we have 3/5 divided by 2/7. The first thing I want to look for are any mixed numbers, and I don't have mixed numbers here, so I can actually move to step 2. In step 2, it tells us that to divide, we actually multiply by the reciprocal. That means division is the opposite of multiplication, and the reciprocal is actually the number that when multiplied by our original number makes 1. By multiplying by the reciprocal, it makes division a lot easier. In order to multiply by the reciprocal, we will keep our first fraction. We will change the division sign to multiplication, and we will flip the second fraction to its reciprocal. So let's see what that looks like in example number 1. In number 1, 3/5, I am going to keep 3/5. Then I'm going to take my division sign and I am going to change it to multiplication. And then remember, keep, change, flip. I am going to flip my second fraction. And in order to flip 2/7, it becomes 7/2. So I keep, I change, and I flip. I'm done with step 2. Step 3 asks me if I can cross-cancel. If yes, I'm going to do it. If no, I'll go to step 4. So I take a look at 5 and 7. 5 and 7 do not have any common factors, so I cannot cross-cancel here. I then look at 3 and 2. They also do not have common factors, so I can't cross-cancel. So I am just going to go to step 4. Step 4 tells me to multiply across for both numerators and denominators. This is now a multiplication problem. So I am going to multiply. 3 times 7 is 21. 5 times 2 is 10. Now, let's look and see if we can simplify. It asks us to double check. If I take a look at number 1, there is no number that goes into both 21 and 10. And again, since we're 8th graders, we get to leave our improper fractions improper. No more converting to mixed numbers, unless we have to for a test, but not likely. Okay, let's go ahead and look at number 2. In number 2, notice we do have some mixed numbers. So we need to change any mixed number into improper form by multiplying the whole number by the denominator and adding it to the numerator. I am going to take my whole number 2 and multiply it by 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Then I'm going to add my numerator. 6 plus 1 is 7. And I keep my denominator of 3. We always keep our denominators. Now, I have not moved on to step 2 yet, so I still have to leave this as division. I am still in step 1. So now, 4 times 5 is 20, and I'm going to add my numerator, 22, and keep my denominator. So now I am done with step 1. Notice I didn't do any keep, change, flip until I already have my improper form. Now I move on to step 2. Now I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. I'm going to keep my first fraction. I'm going to change division to multiplication, and I'm going to flip my second number. So that leaves me with 7/3. times 5 over 22. Notice that I keep my first fraction, I change my sign, and I flip the second fraction. Now I'm going to look at step 3. Can you cross cancel? 3 times 5, or no, sorry, not 3 times 5, but 3 and 5 do not have any common factors, so I can't. Then I take a look at 7 and 22. There are no common factors, so I can't cross cancel. So I am going to multiply across. I am moving on to step 4. I have 7 times 5 is 35. And then I have 3 times 22 is 66. My answer is 35 over 66. There is not a common factor that both 35 and 66 go into, so I am done. Now let's go ahead and take a look at example number 3. Sometimes fractions are written a little bit differently, and I don't want you to be fooled. I want you to think, have you ever seen a fraction that was written like this? This is called a complex fraction. It is really just division. It is 1/2 divided by 4/5. I know that looks really scary, but I'm going to show you something really easy to do. Just change it and rewrite it just like you want it to look. Rewrite it. Don't be fooled by this. This is actually quite simple. This is 1/2. This fraction bar means divided by 4/5. When you come across a complex fraction that is written in this format, one way to solve it is just to rewrite it so we can recognize it. Now that I have it in a form that I know how to solve, I'm going to go back over here to my steps. If I take a look at number 1, change any mixed numbers. I don't have mixed numbers, so I can move to step 2. In step number 2, I am going to multiply by the reciprocal. I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. That means I need to keep my 1/2. I need to change division to multiplication, and I need to flip 4/5 to its reciprocal of 5/4. Now I'm going to move on to step 3. Step 3 asks me to cross cancel. 1 and 4, well, those I can't simplify. And 2 and 5, no common factors there, I cannot cross cancel. So I am going to move on to step 4. Step 4 tells me to multiply across. 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 4 is 8. And that is my fraction. If I take a look at simplifying, there is no common factor between 5 and 8, so I am done. And that is dividing fractions.